What is pedagogy?
Teaching or singing.
Voice science.
Is it?
What
is the word?
It's the study of teaching.
It's the study of teaching. Okay. But it's interesting to me to hear how you respond. So understand we're having these conversations. Anytime vocabulary is important. Terminology is important because it can either hang you up or help you. Okay, so pedagogy is basically the study of the art of teaching. Now, since we are studying the art of teaching singing, we must assume that at some point the end goal is to be able to use it, correct? Yes. The end goal for practical pedagogy, and that's what it needs to be, is that whatever you know can be described in such a way where it will physicalize in such a way in the technique that it doesn't work against the emotion or musical nature of the pieces you're singing or characters. Yes?
Yeah.
All right. I say that to you, and I realize it's a duh. I'm going to say a couple things today, and I want to get you started thinking because we'll start having some discussions about this. But there are certain things that you learn in pedagogy that you can immediately in your own body say, I know how that feels. And I can apply that to my singing and my performing. There are things you will learn in pedagogy that sound cool, and when you try to physicalize them, they don't work. Is this because the pedagogy, the science is wrong? No, it's not, obviously. So let's start from where you guys are about to discuss in your own pedagogy. Let's talk about local effort, warring gangs against the no effort warring gang. All right? Because this is the start of this before we talk about philosophy and where you draw your experiences from so that what you learn in pedagogy finally makes some sense. You have the local effort folks and the no effort folks. The local effort folks these days would be the ones that study the larynx to the point where they could make one out of clay and spaghetti and pie dough, and it would be totally and entirely accurate, and they could describe every movement of every arytenoid, cricoid, and thyroid in there. Probably couldn't phonate, but they could describe it all. The local effort people knew all that could be known at that time about singing in terms of anatomy, but their concept was what? What do the local effort teachers think you could do?
Control little pieces that separately in there.
Okay. You know? You read?
They talk about a little bit in the pedagogy book we're reading for Dr. Yarrington about how they're more against control tension and against being able to work, that you can't sing without some kind of, like I said, controlled tension, and that being able, kind of like what Michelle said, work
Yes.
the inner workings of the hands.
There are two types of local effort and no effort periods in it. One started out as the people who just wanted to stand there and sing and whatever happened, happened, and they didn't put any effort anywhere, and the others wanted to actually physically, technically work it. Then there was the group that took that and turned it into conscious control of all the inner workings of the larynx versus putting the effort elsewhere and seeing if those things would happen on their own. All right? Because that is a movement that evolved over time. That's part of your historical pedagogy. So let's take for a moment the idea that local effort for you as a teacher means that you have studied the larynx and you know how all those parts move, and you are going to come up with a technique that allows you to control all of that. You're going to come up with a technique that allows you to control from here, from Command Central, the registration of the voice. Yes. If you are a local effort, for the sake of our argument today, because what I want to do today is instead of going into history, I want to get you to figure out how you're going to slot the things you learn in pedagogy and how you're going to then be able to take that, create teaching language out of that that can fit various body types and various learning styles and not frustrate you in the process. And what are the tools you need to be working on to have those skills, yeah? So let's say for the sake of argument that local effort, you have decided that location central is right here in the voice box, and you are going to figure out based on science how to teach people to manipulate the arytenoids, the cricoid and the thyroid cartilage, in order to make various things happen, different onsets, different whatevers. Franco Corelli was one who actively manipulated the larynx to make his sound. He would actually think of closure, and that he thought a lot about onset and what they call firm glottal closure, And he executed that from here. So let's, for the sake of argument, let's say what that might be local effort. Now think about what you are learning, what you may have learned in Ped 1 and what you're learning in Ped 2 now. Now, what if the no effort camp became the camp that said, you know what, Command Central's got to be somewhere else other than here, and how do I put physicality and technique in the body and somewhere else away from the larynx that allows all of those changes to happen naturally? Okay, so just put that in your mind, because this now leads us to one of the first principles we're going to talk about in terms of teaching. When you teach, is it more effective as a voice teacher to teach cause to effect or effect to cause? Gallery. Cause to effect means I start by telling you which direction the arytenoids moved, and then we vocalize. Effect to cause means I say, I want to teach you something that can be felt. I'm not going to tell you what happens inside the larynx, but I'm going to teach you a sensation away from the larynx, and then I'll work back and tell you the cause. Since this is an active process, a performance is an active process, which do you think, everybody may be different. In your learning style, do you think you would function better knowing the cause first and then figuring out the effect? And by cause, I mean all the inner workings of this? Or do you think you would learn more if I taught you the sensation and work my way back to the cause? Think about your own learning style.
Sensation
It would have to be
to cause.
sensation.
Huh?
It would have to be sensation. I mean, I can't like will my arytenoids to do what I want them to do. So it has to be the sensation.
It has to be sensation based. Anybody else feel like they'd be more comfortable the other way? It's okay. This is not a class of condemnation.
I kind of feel like either or, honestly, just because of the analytical brain.
Depends on the learning style.
Yeah.
But in the end, yes, it depends on the learning style. Now, one of the things that as we talk, you'll hear me say again and again is, there's no right or wrong answer. There's more efficient, less efficient. It's not black and white. It's more efficient, less efficient. More emotional, less emotional. More truthful to the music, less truthful to the music. More analytical, more organic. Okay? Everybody's different. But what we do know is this. What guides our first tool in teaching is this thing right here. That is the number one thing, the first window I open to all of my students and all my teachers that I mentor, is empathy. Empathy, physical empathy, is your body's physical reaction to stimulus, both internal and external. If I'm standing up here singing and you're reading me and there's no thoughts in your head is empty and you're reading me and all of a sudden I go, yeah! In that moment where I probably in my head was going, let me place this note ever so musically and lightly in my head, and my body went from creating or emoting to technical or thoughts beyond the organic, my body did this. What does your body do when I do that?
Shuts down, holds it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You hold your air. Your body senses up. Your body has a physical reaction to something you see in me. That's physical empathy. Physical empathy is probably one of your most valuable teaching tools when you take what you read in the pedagogy book and step in with your student in the studio and try to make art out of what's in here. Your second valuable tool, so empathy, physical and emotional empathy, this is crucial to your teaching. One of your second valuable tools is your own singing and practice, your own practice, good and bad. The physicalization of your own practice. Are you a better hearer than a feeler? If you are a big time hearer of your voice and you spend 80% of your time listening to your voice, does that help you or does it sometimes hair lip you? Yes? Okay? If that's the case and you know you have a tendency physically in your own practice to listen more and it's less effective when you do, then you must teach yourself to feel a series of sensations that stabilizes the voice. And we'll talk about what that means to us in a hot second. Then your third, hi Sarah. Your third valuable teaching tool, and by the way, these take a lifetime to develop and they change. It doesn't mean you need to wait a lifetime, but these are ever evolving skills. The third one is your knowledge of, I can't write this, I don't like this, is that anatomy and acoustics. Singing is a sonic art form. There are acoustics involved. Your ability to know a little bit about acoustics and how to put that in your own physical body as well as recognize it outside of your body is going to aid your teaching. Your knowledge of anatomy, not just the larynx, but all the other things that support the larynx, that's important. Knowledge of it separate from these two things results in a controlled singer, not an organic singer, or a voice scientist. This is not valuable, but any of these things, absent another, are going to give you fewer tools to solve problems in both your own singing and in your teaching, okay? So, let's start by talking about your first assignment in pedagogy, which is you have to teach a voice student. Grad students don't answer. Your first time. What do you do to prepare for your first voice lesson? You never taught anybody before in your life. Don't answer grad, don't answer TAs. MMs can answer and ladies can answer. Well, hi Adam, welcome to class. That's okay, glad. Okay. You've never seen your student before in your life. You've been taking pedagogy. Dr. Yarrington has given you an entire list of things to do. What are you going to do first?
I guess find a series of warm-ups so you can get to know the voice. Because, I mean, everyone's different.
Okay. Kelly?
I was thinking maybe get to know the student on more of a personal level, like ask them why it is that they want to learn voice.
Okay.
And think of it.
Okay.
And kind of build from that.
All right. Let's do Hillary and Vicky. Hillary?
Figure out what kind of singing experience they have in the past.
Do you do that by vocalizing them or asking them questions?
Ask them questions and then vocalize them.
Okay.
What they're comfortable with,
All right.
and what you think you can work on.
All right. Vicky?
Yeah, sort of similar. I would determine exactly what questions I need to ask and what kind of vocalizing, if any, I need to do to get the information that I need to have to get a picture of, what goals we need to set and how to proceed with them.
All right. All right. Sarah?
Yeah, I had my first lesson yesterday with my student,
Yeah.
and it was kind of scary for me, and because I've never taught anyone before, but I mean, I pretty much did. I talked to them about what they're comfortable with, their musical background and stuff like that, and then I warmed them up to see what their voice type was like and what they would be able to do, and I gave them, a couple of art songs.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody? Okay.
I think maybe one of the more important things to do to prepare before you meet your student is to keep an open mind about what they might be like and what they might sound like and where they want to go with this.
Very good. Yes, sir.
Ask them what they like and do not like about their own voice.
What's the purpose of that?
To learn more about their learning style and preference, and just their own opinions and interpretation about their own voice.
Yes. How many of you, when you entered your first voice lesson, entered with no agenda? No list? Yeah, because you talked to me, that's why.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
Certainly not my
I
first
did not, no. When I taught my first lesson in Orlando, I went in scared out of my mind, having absolutely no idea what I was gonna do.
But see, that in and of itself becomes an agenda.
Yeah.
How many of you could trust yourself enough, based on where you are right now in your own singing experience, physically, musically, and technically, to go into a 30-minute voice lesson with nothing on your pad, and all you're going to do is vocalize and watch and ask a series of questions to get to know them? Does that frighten you? Yes, some of you it does. You want to know why? Because when we take pedagogy, what we do when we go from this classroom to the studio to put it into practice is we don't trust our instincts. Well, of course you're not going to trust your instincts right now. You don't know what they are. I haven't even opened the window yet. Say, what am I looking for? What am I listening for? But the hardest thing for the teacher fellows to do this past summer at EPI was, and they all have been teaching, all 5 of them, when I said, don't go in with any agenda. Talk to them, start vocalizing them, listen and watch. Don't think, just observe. Then, when you start observing, listen to your body. When they start singing, you'll start reacting, even if you're just sitting there like this with poker face on, because you're going to start to see at various parts of their range where their physical issues and non-issues might be. Then take a minute, and this is how you get to know their learning style and their insecurities. The very first question I always ask is, what do you like about your voice? I'm not wasting time, because this is what will happen. 9 out of 10 will say, well, I don't know, I like anything. And you say, okay, then why do you want to sing? Yeah, then why do you want to sing? Because the essence of that question is, this is an art form that is emotive and creative, and that situates itself in the physical body and in the emotional body. And 9 times out of 10, someone will start telling you what they don't like. And you say, don't tell me what you don't like. I want to hear what you do like. For some, they see answering that question as a matter of ego. It's not a matter of ego to inventory the things that you like about the thing that you want to do for a living your entire life. It's also a matter, if you keep inventorying yourself like this, these will be the qualities you lead with when the room doesn't behave, the pianist doesn't behave, and the voice doesn't behave. Or you can entertain the things that you don't like. So I'll vocalize them again some more, and I'll say, what do you not like about your voice? And they'll verbalize that. From that, and my own observations, I can then begin to problem solve at the basic level with them. Now, what are you going to do the first time you go in there? You've studied an entire chapter on balanced onset and breath support. They don't have any breath support.
I'm going to take my little larynx that I built. I'm going to show them all the pieces parts in there. And I'm going to describe scientifically. This is what pedagogy makes me want to do.
Okay,
describe scientifically
that's fair.
cause to effect.
That's fair.
Exactly what's moving.
Mm-hmm.
Your brechy. This is why your rhythmoids aren't, your chords aren't affecting properly.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Kelly?
Something I did in my lesson yesterday with my students that after I had her initially vocalize, I was kind of just watching to see what different things that we need to work on. I think I came up with a plan that each week we're going to add a layer, and this week was posture. That we're going to fix her posture and see how that affects the voice. And I asked her, like, how did that feel compared to the first time you sang through the exercise? Did it feel easier? Did it feel harder? And then I kind of explained why. And then I think next week we're going to talk about breath.
So you've made your agenda, but is your agenda based on what you learned in the class, or is your agenda based on what you observed in the student?
It's based on what I saw in her.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. When I see problems, I love to take them to each opposite extreme, and then have them find the middle ground. Because I like to trust that whoever I'm with is generally going to be smart enough they'll be able to find it if they see the opposite ends.
Okay. Then that's a method. All of these things are viable. You've got to be flexible in your method, though, because if you take a scared person to an extreme, they will probably fall out and either pee or cry all over themselves. But you can imagine that if you take a wallflower to an extreme, because the voice is a very personal, very emotional thing. If I take Bookie and say, Bookie, we're going to run up and down the hall and sing scales, 90 miles an hour, Bookie looking like, so what? Because her personality in singing, now when she gets on stage, she just drops it all. But she gets in that studio, sometimes she's like, wait a minute, I don't trust you. But I can read that. If I have a student that has an answer that tells me, I don't like the way my high notes feel, or I can't feel my air, or whatever, that tells me there's a physical insecurity in there that if I take them to an extreme might work, might not. But that is also a viable method. Anybody else?
Well, one of the things I noticed in my lesson this week, thank God we have it covered, but